was always in trouble for talking. Put my desk outside, and I'm like, listen, I'll talk to myself if I have to. Looks at me, and he's like, you gonna let her do that to you? And these were her words. I don't know who hired those other crackhead interns you have, but I have this kid here who wants to work. You need to hire him. Little luck, a lot of faith, and great people. I've never seen anything like it. And all of a sudden, this newsroom just came to life. And people jumped up out of their desks, and people start taking command, and they're running reporters out the door. People are yelling. I specifically remember somebody yelling, "We're being attacked. We're being attacked. We're being attacked." And I'm like, when the world stopped, I kept going. Just went through probably one of the more difficult parts of my life. I think it's important that, we remember, especially the younger journalists, like, you have to take a step back.
For 2 decades, I've helped brands earn credibility through PR. Now I'm turning the mic on the storytellers themselves. I'm Melissa DiGianfilippo, founder and CEO of Proof Publicity, and this is Off Deadline, the real stories of reporters, hosts, and media insiders beyond the byline. Welcome to Off Deadline. I'm Melissa DiGianfilippo, and my guest today is Javier Soto. Welcome, Javier.
Oh my goodness, so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Well, they keep us busy. That's
They do. They do. Javier Soto is a longtime Arizona journalist and weekday evening anchor at ABC 15. A graduate of Cal State Long Beach, he began his career producing at KTLA in Los Angeles before stepping in front of the camera in Idaho and later leading coverage across northern Arizona as bureau chief for KTVK. Known for his infectious smile, booming laugh, and genuine connection with the community, Javier has spent his 25-year career telling the stories that matter the most and getting them right. When he's not bringing you the news, you'll find Javier and his wife exploring Arizona, supporting local causes, trying new restaurants, and cheering on Valley sports teams. You do it all.
I'm like, who is that person? I want to meet that person.
I know. You've done a lot, and you've been doing this for a long time.
25 years, and it's hard to even think about it. 21 years here in Arizona, which is incredible considering, like, when I started here, you know the business. It was just supposed to be a stop, right? We work on 2-3 year contracts, and it was like, okay, I'm coming through, I'm taking my next step. And then how do you not fall in love with Arizona?
I know. It's so easy to live here.
It is. And starting my career in Flagstaff, you're up there and it's so gorgeous. And we spent a lot of time when I was in the Northern Arizona Bureau, just reaching every corner of the state. And you just spend a lot of time driving, and every area of Arizona is so different and so beautiful.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about you today.
All right.
So I always want to start with the backstory. Did you know when you were a child, like, I want to be on TV? What did that look like? And then tell me about your first job.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No.
So what did you want to be?
No, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I knew, as you can imagine, I was the class clown, right? I was always in trouble for talking. They would put my desk outside, and I'm like, listen, I'll talk to myself if I have to. Like, I'm trying to keep myself company and keep myself entertained. Yeah. And I was always in trouble. And so, college was an afterthought. And I got into college, and you're trying to figure out, like, everybody else who starts, and I started at a junior college, and you're like trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? And it wasn't until later that when I transferred to Cal State Long Beach that I went into what was known at the time was radio, television, and film. Mm-hmm. So it was one big department. And so at that point, I thought for sure I was going into radio. And the funny story about it was the summer going into my senior year. Mm-hmm. I went and I applied for this internship. I got the interview, and I got the internship. Okay. And it was at Power 106 in Los Angeles. And if anybody's from Los Angeles, they're like, that's
a big station.
Yeah, that's the station. Yeah. For Big Boy's neighborhood, right? And so Big Boy is like the voice of Los Angeles. Yep. So I was done. I knew, get my foot in the door. This is my career. I'm done. That night, I get a call from my cousin. He was working for PR at Hill and Knowlton, a big company
Yeah,
out there in Los
very
Angeles.
familiar.
Yeah,
It's an agency, a big one, yeah.
yeah. And so he says, hey, he says, what are you doing tomorrow morning? And I said, sleeping.
Yeah,
I'm a
in
college student, right?
Yeah, fair.
He says, no. He says, meet me at the USC pool tomorrow. Bring your resume. I have an interview set up with KTLA with Gail Anderson from KTLA. And I said, look, bro, like, what time? 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I'm like, nah, it's not going to happen. And I go, listen, today I just got hooked up, Big Boys Neighborhood,
Like, that's
Power
it.
106.
Done.
Like, I'm done. Like, I'm good. And he's like, meet me there. So I said, all right. So show up, 6 o'clock in the morning, USC pool. She pulls up and he's like, all right, grab your resume. I'm half asleep. You know, she walks out of her van. And I remember it so vividly. And she's like 6'2", 6'3", right? She's very tall. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, okay, yes, true. You're definitely not 6'3".
Yeah. So she walks out, and I walk up, and I said, Miss Anderson, so great to meet you. Thank you very much for taking the time. Here's my resume. I'd love to talk to you further about possibly working at KTLA. And she shakes my hand, and then she kind of brushes me aside, and she walks on.
Oh, that's a bad
She's
feeling.
about her business, right?
Uh-huh.
So I look at my cousin, and I'm like, it's 6 in the morning.
I could be asleep.
I could be asleep. By the way, we were out partying the night before because I got my, internship at the radio station. And he's like, he looks at me and he's like, you gonna let her do that to you? And I'm like, okay.
What a good cousin.
So the rest of the morning, everywhere she turned, she saw me. Hey, Miss Anderson, how can I help you? What can I get for you? What do you need? Initially, she was annoyed, right?
Of course.
She was annoyed because she's working. She's trying to do what she had to do.
Leave me alone, kid.
Yeah, like, get out of here. I thought I made that clear. And so I kept, like, I was there. And then she started having fun with it. Then she started playing with it. And so the rest of the morning, she saw me. What can I do for you? What can I do for you? At the time, her photographer came up to me and he said, Javier, I don't know if she's going to help you. And he says, but listen, I happen to be an alumni of Cal State Long Beach. So you give me your resume and I will make sure it gets to the station.
Wow.
Well, I'm like, thank you so much. That's incredible. Thank you. At the end of her shoot, she comes over and we start, talking with her. And by this time, it's a light mood and we're joking and this and that. And she picks up the phone and she calls the station. And these were her words. I don't know who hired those other crackhead interns you have, but I have this kid here who wants to work. You need to hire him. And so they put me on the phone and it's HR. And they said, when can you come in? I said, I'll come in right now. And they said, no.
We have paperwork. We have processes.
We have schedules that we have to meet, right?
Yeah.
They're like, how about tomorrow morning? And I'm like, sure. So next morning, I show up at KTLA and talk with HR and have this conversation, great conversation. And they said, all right, you're hired. When can you start?
Wow.
And I said, when do you want me? Tell me when. And they said, well, let's figure out who we want to put you with. We're going to move some people around and we'll see what's the best fit for you. I said, okay. So I said, can we go by Gail's office so I can thank her? And she said, yeah, sure. So we walk over and I said, Miss Anderson, thank you so much. This has been extremely helpful. And she's like, did you get the job? And I'm like, apparently so,
Yeah.
She's like, when do you start? And I said, no, they're trying to figure out who they're going to put me with. And she looks at the HR girl and she says, put him with.
Me.
She said, he's mine.
Oh, wow.
And the HR director says, you don't have interns. And she says, I do now. And she walks away.
That is the coolest story.
Right? So.
Wow. And that's like persistence and also your cousin. Like, what's his name, by the way?
Mario Perez.
That's a great, that is a great person in your life to push you. And like also for you to have the persistence and like you probably were uncomfortable. Like this woman doesn't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah. So I started the following week and, she said, show up 3:30 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
be here. And I showed up, and that morning she says, listen, do you want to learn or do you want to watch TV like the rest of these interns? And I said, I want to learn. And she said, all right, be here every day at 3:30 on the dot. And she said, and we'll learn.
Wow.
And so that summer, I spent the entire summer. I mean, and I was also bartending at night. I was also going to school, summer school.
Yeah.
You know, I was exhausted, but this was an opportunity. So at the end of my summer internship, I went to them and I said, guys, you know, I'm learning so much. And amazingly, I had become the liaison because Gail was very demanding.
Yeah.
Very focused, and so some of the photographers had a hard time working with her, right?
You
we
had
know
to, like,
those type. We know
soften
those
it.
type, right?
Oh, yes.
So they started coming to me, and everybody started coming to me, and they're like, you know, hey, Javier, you know, can we do this? Can we? So I essentially became her producer.
Yeah. You knew what she would be okay with, so you could say yes or no or make it happen. Yeah.
And if she was going to beat anybody up, it was me, right? So we grew this great relationship. So at the end of my summer internship, I went to him and I said, guys, I'm learning so much. How can I continue my summer internship? You know, by the way, this was when interns were not getting paid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Now, now
they're getting paid. I'm like, you guys get paid.
I know. Yeah.
And so I was working like 60 hours, but you know, I was learning. And the station came back to me and they said, Javier, we want to hire you. And I said, well, wait a minute. I still have a year left in school. And they said, we don't care. Like, you've been so beneficial to us. You've helped us out so much. She has a ton of work. You've lifted some of that off of her. We want to hire you. We want to keep you. And I'm like, wow. And so that's how I got into
I have
this.
chills. And that is such a great story. And like, what a good reminder. I can't wait to share this because I think that is the tenacity and like decision to work really hard in college, not getting paid, and not even caring probably about the impact on social life and all that stuff. Like, that's what made you successful. And kids can do that like today. And I think they forget, like they think they can only, they have to follow this process and do it like everyone else. And it's like, no, you don't.
You create your own process, and that's essentially what had happened here. You know, little luck, a lot of faith, and great people. You know, who came together and saw something in me. And at the time, you know, I told her, I'm like, I don't know much about news. Again, that wasn't the direction I was going, and I said, I don't know a lot about news, and all I know how to do is work. Yeah. That's it, and I'll give you that. Yeah. And that's what we did all summer.
Thank you for sharing that. That is a great story. Was there a story that you worked on that shifted kind of how you see your work?
Yes.
Yeah. What was it? Tell me about
100%.
it.
100%. So I'm going to take you way back when, right? And it was the same, you know, time frame. So I was working at KTLA. I was producing for a feature reporter, Gail Anderson. And for whatever reason that day, she was out in the field and I stayed back in the office. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the office, and interestingly enough, we just marked the 24th anniversary of 9/11. Yeah. So it was that morning. I was in that morning, 3:30 in the morning. It's a regular day. We're on the air. At about 5:46, we start hearing word that there's a plane crash in New York City. And so shortly after that, we're KTLA, so we were an independent. So we didn't have a national broadcast to go to, mm-hmm. right? So at some point, we cut away to New York City. And you see, you know, the North Tower and a big gaping hole, and there's smoke coming out. And our anchors are talking about whatever they see because we know nothing at that point. Yeah. So they have little information, and they're just talking about what they see. And people are glued to the TV, and, you know, I'm watching. And shortly after that, at about 6:01, I believe, you're watching, and you see this plane crash into the South Tower on live TV. And there's this big gasp. But in my mind anyhow, I'm thinking, this is a replay of what happened.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you hear this big gasp, and the newsroom went silent with what felt like forever. And then by that time in your mind, you start realizing like this is a second plane and you're looking at both towers on fire. And I've never seen anything like it. And all of a sudden, this newsroom just came to life.
Mm-hmm.
And people jumped up out of their desks and people start taking command. And they're running reporters out the door. People are yelling. I specifically remember somebody yelling, "We're being attacked. We're being attacked.
God.
We're being attacked." There's people in the newsroom like sobbing, inconsolable,
Yeah, like
and like frozen, you know. And you're just taking this all in, and you're in disbelief. And one of our managers runs over, and he starts yelling at us, "Get somebody on the phone. Get me. I need a terrorism expert. Get somebody on the phone." And so I start making calls, and you're making cold calls, right? You're just,
oh yeah.
so I'm calling. I call USC. I call Cal State LA. I finally get somebody, a terrorism expert from UCLA, on the phone. My conversation with him is brief. He's like, "What do you want me to talk about?" "I don't know,
Yeah.
but we have to get you on the phone right now. I'm going to transfer you." We ended up having the first terrorism expert on the phone, on air in that market.
Wow, good for you for moving so fast.
So I remember driving home, Los Angeles. I'm on the freeway. Freeway is empty.
Which is never a thing.
Never happened
Yeah.
ever before. Freeway is empty, and I'm driving, and I just, I'm finally able to take it all in, like understand what just happened, realize what we just went through. And I remember thinking to myself, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I'm like, when the world stopped, I kept going.
That
And this
is
it.
like your explanation of that moment is so helpful because I can picture it. Like I was a freshman in college for the first time away from home on that day and that morning, and that was really scary. I can't even imagine being in the newsroom across the country and having to make decisions and move that fast, and like that feeling of also the realization of like I was born to do this.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's never stopped since. Like,
Yeah.
that every anniversary, like so many Americans, you're heartbroken.
Yeah.
And you realize the impact that day had on everybody. But it's also a reminder to me every year of what I love and why I do this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, that was a hard moment, but I'm assuming also there's something else that's a really hard moment that this profession has thrown at you that you just didn't expect, like a curveball. What was that?
I would have to say it was recent.
Yeah, yeah.
We're living through it right now.
Yeah.
In terms of the transition to ABC 15,
Mm-hmm.
I had always led my career with my personality. Right, it was easy to do. It's me. It's who I am.
Yeah.
Right, and so literally going from days to nights, and then moving over to ABC 15, like I realized like they had a different structure, they had a different focus, they have had a different mentality. This wasn't personality driven.
Yeah.
And so working there and starting, and you're like, whoa.
It's different.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is different.
Yeah.
And so in a sense, there was almost like I lost my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, all right, what do we have to do here? Now, thankfully, I had an amazing co-anchor, right? Katie Raml
Yeah. Gosh,
is
she's such
the
a
utmost
legend.
professional,
Yeah.
right? One of the greatest journalists I've ever worked alongside.
Yeah.
And so, again, it goes back to that, like, okay, I don't know this, but I know how to work. And she was gracious enough, and not that she had to, not that she realized she did it, but I knew that she had been in that position for 20 plus years as the main anchor of ABC 15.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're smart enough and you can check your ego, you can sit back and learn. And so for months and months and months, I just studied her. And I just watched her and I just followed her and I learned from her and I asked
Mm-hmm.
questions and she was always like gracious enough to explain stuff to me. And so at that point, you go back to like, did I make the right move?
Yeah. You ask a lot of
Am I
questions.
the right person?
Yeah.
You start,
You get imposter syndrome a little bit, even though you're a pro. I imagine, right?
Yeah.
It's a big change to start over again.
Yeah. And so, going through that again was like an incredible challenge,
Mm-hmm.
but it was the challenge that I needed in my career.
Yeah.
So, working alongside her, and she was the perfect person for the perfect moment. And, I'm so thankful for her.
Yeah.
But she's been an incredible friend and an incredible co-anchor. And so that helped me get through one of the difficult transitions in my life. But I knew at the end of the day, listen, you got to get back to the basics.
Yeah.
You got to get back to the journalism basics and become the leader that they need, become the anchor that they need, and the voice that they need.
Mm-hmm.
And so throughout that process, we've come a long way.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, good for you for like just recognizing like, okay, it's time for a change, time to shift things and do
Yeah.
something different, and jumping headfirst into that.
And I've always been like the type,
Yeah.
I'll jump in feet first
Yeah.
and learn how to swim later.
Yep.
But that was some hard swimming.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have no doubt. Have you witnessed something on the job that was difficult to process emotionally?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think more so as a younger reporter,
Yeah.
especially when
In the
you're out in the
field.
streets and you're out in the field, because there were times, we would get to the scene before police would. And you're seeing, the trauma. You're seeing everything that just happened. You're hearing the screams from family members, the agony that is in their voice
Yeah.
when somebody's screaming, when they show up to a scene and they learn that their loved one just passed. And so those are the things that, I think are difficult to deal with. Um, I came up in a time before there was a focus on mental health, and so you kind of compartmentalize some of that stuff,
Yeah.
and you just go on about your day's business. But there are certain scenes and there are certain stories that definitely affect you. I remember one specifically, and there was a case where and it was random. There were these kids and they were playing in their neighborhood little park and on their playground, and this guy showed up and just was not all there and beat them to death with a bat.
Oh my God.
And I remember, and the kids were the exact same ages as my nephews, and so I remember it was right about Christmas, and I wasn't planning on going home for Christmas, and that one just tore me up. Like, it just really affected me. So I ended up going home for Christmas and just hugging
You
my
needed
nephews
that.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And you need that, So there's so much that goes on that, we deal with on a day-to-day basis, not to mention, the deadlines and the hustle and bustle
Yeah.
of what we do. But I think it's important that, we remember, especially the younger journalists, like you have to take a step back.
Yeah.
We had recently there was a story where a family was caught in a fire in their house, in a house fire. And if I recall specifically, a few family members died during that fire. Some other family members were in the hospital. And then slowly, as we covered that story throughout the week, like more and more families died and the babies died. And,
Yeah.
and so I had to pull my reporter, Josh Cristianto, to the side. And I said, dude, on your days off, like, just disappear.
Yeah.
Like, check out, unplug.
Yeah.
You got to get away, dude. You just have to. This has been a rough week for you. Like,
great
you have
advice.
to focus on you. Step away from this. Don't look at your emails. Don't watch TV. Like,
Yeah.
you have to unwind somehow and deal with what you just witnessed and were part of as you covered that story. So
Yeah, gosh, in the coaching, you can guide people, whether they're new reporters or they're seasoned and they just haven't addressed it on like taking care of your mental health is so important.
it is.
In any job, but especially in a job where you see what you see every day.
Yeah.
So that's great if you can instill that in people and like hopefully they get more comfortable. I think especially I'm going to generalize like men often I think are more uncomfortable because we do a nonprofit that helps police officers and first responders get mental health support and make it okay because it's still a pretty bad stigma. It's called SOS, Stop Our Stigma. And I just it's just making it okay. And by like another male saying to someone else, like, this is okay. Like you can take care of yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, they face this, first responders on a whole different level. And, they'll tell you the same thing. Like, it's not until those runs that they go on where there's kids involved. Those are the ones that really affect them. And it's hard to watch. And you see it, we're all men at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
And it's hard to express our feelings, but, seek that help.
Yeah.
It's out there.
Yeah. Great advice. What's something in your life that shapes your work, but your audience wouldn't know?
What's interesting, I just went through probably one of the more difficult parts of my life, challenging, gut-wrenching, just every emotion you can think of. So back in January, I came home from work, and my wife was like coughing extensively.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what's going on? What's up? Just take cough medicine, this and that. The following day, we were supposed to drive to Los Angeles to go visit family. And as the night went on, she kept coughing. She says, I'm okay. I'll be all right. At some point in the morning, she started throwing up. Oh. And so I'm like, all right, we got to go to the ER.
Something's going on,
We got to go to the ER.
Yeah.
She says, no, we're going to the ER. So we go to the ER, and they run a scan. They, run some tests. They run a scan, and they said, you have double pneumonia. And I said, okay, that explains it, right? So they give her some antibiotics and send her home. And she's like, if I have double pneumonia, shouldn't they admit me to the hospital? And I said, honestly, I said, right now, respiratory virus is going on. There are a lot of people with pneumonia. Hospitals are full. They probably looked at you, thought you were healthy.
Yeah.
You were young. You'll be okay. So for the next 2 days, I watched her in agony, like the hardest thing, and I'm trying to...
You watch someone you love and you can't take it off their...
you can't do anything. Yeah. And I'm like, let the drugs kick in. Let the drugs kick in. Wait till, they start to take effect. You'll be okay. The third day, she woke up and she's like, I can't breathe.
Oh, God.
And so I'm like, let's go to the ER, right? So we rush back to the ER. They do another scan. They come in and they're like, your pneumonia's gotten worse. And so there's this confused look on their face as they're explaining this. And so, I immediately go into journalism mode. I start asking all these questions and they don't have answers. They said, we're going to admit you to the hospital. So we spend the rest of the day waiting to get admitted to the hospital. And so we get into the hospital room that night. And, I walk in and walk out to some nurses. And I'm like, hey guys, listen, I've never done this. I've never been admitted to a hospital. Neither has my wife. We spent the whole day today waiting to get here to the hospital. Can you help her? Just help her. By this time, she's on oxygen.
Oh, how scary.
So doctor comes in, and he's listening to her lungs. And he looks at her, and he says, has anybody ever told you have a heart murmur?
And I don't want to need to ask your wife's age, but I assume she's a fully grown adult.
Yeah.
What?
And so she goes, no. And he goes, so you've never had a heart murmur? And she goes, no. And he goes, okay. So he listens some more. And then he leaves. So she looks at me she's stressed.
Freaked out.
And I'm like, babe, I had a heart murmur when I was a kid. I outgrew it. You'll be okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you're trying to make it better.
Don't worry about it. Don't stress. Don't stress this and that. So the nurse comes in and he says, the doctor just ordered a bunch of tests. So within hours, they come in and they start running all these tests. And they come back and they said, well, what's happening was your heart valve ruptured. And what it's doing is it's creating a backflow into your lungs, and your lungs are filling up with blood.
Oh, my God.
And essentially, you're drowning. And so we're going to have to rush you to emergency open heart surgery right now. And we're going to have to fix this. And we don't know if we're going to repair it or replace it, but we won't know until we get in there. And immediately your life is turned upside down, right? And I'm like, can we go back to pneumonia? You know,
Yeah.
like, can we? And everything all of a sudden has focus, like nothing else
matters in the whole world. Yeah.
but her. And so, you know, for the next couple hours, they're running more tests and they're trying to figure this out. I'm making calls to every doctor I know, like, give me some direction here. My wife gives me a hard time because I called a really good friend who's a urologist.
She's like, I'm not quite sure the correlation here.
And he's saying the same thing, you know, he's like, why are you calling me? I
but
go,
you're looking for anything.
I go, listen, they all pump blood. Like, just
like you're a doctor.
Help me understand here. Help me. I go, just give me some direction here. Incredibly, through a friend, we have a really good friend who's a cardiologist.
Oh, good.
Who I didn't think.
Of course. But you're stressed, to be fair.
Yeah, through a mutual friend,
Yeah.
he hears about it. He calls me and he says, Javier, what's going on? Tell me, I heard a little bit. Tell me what's going on. So I explained the whole thing to him. And he says, all right, who's the surgeon? And I said, Dr. Calpe. And he says, Javier, he is the best in the business. And I said, that's what he told us.
But like, of course, you're like, he's going to say that.
No,
yeah, but it's
that's
nice
what he
to
told,
hear.
right? He came in and Dr. Calpe was great, right? And he looks at her and he, you know, reading everything and he says, listen, and he looks at us and he says, I'm going to take care of her. She's going to be fine. And I want you to know that. And I know that because I'm good.
Good. That is
And
what
I
you
said,
needed to hear.
That's the dude I want. That's
Yep.
the dude I want
Hire.
operating on her,
Yeah.
right? So Dr. Sanders says, when I hang up right now, I'm going to call Dr. Calpe and I'm going to get him on the phone and we're going to have a conversation. I said, all right. So Dr. Calpe happens to come into the room and I said, Dr. Calpe, I said, Dr. Sanders is going to call you right now. He says, how do you know Greg? I said, he's a really good friend of ours. And he picks up his phone and he says, there he is right there. Puts him on speakerphone and he says, do I have permission to talk about you? I have 100%. Tell him everything, right? So they start, you know, having this conversation and both of them are like, B, you're going to be fine. We're going to take care of you. So when you talk about what goes on behind the scenes in life and whatever, and especially this year, but more so this year, but always been, like, she's my reason, right? She keeps me grounded. She drives me. She adds color to my life. She makes me whole. And so those are the things that matter when you're looking for a partner, when you're looking for somebody to support you, be part of your life. And together, we just have a great time. And now life has new meaning, has new purpose. And when you come from a place like that, like, it gives you more value. And so, you know, 9 months later, you would look at her and you would never even know that she went through this. I mean, she's a rock star. She's determined from day one after, you know, they're like, we need you to get up and walk. And this is hours after major surgery, open heart surgery. And, you know, they asked her to just walk a little bit and she's ready to like walk.
She's like, I'm recovering.
Walk that. Yeah, she was determined. And so, you know, she's made this miraculous comeback. And it's great to watch. But again, like in a relationship, you get to learn a whole new part of someone that you love.
Oh, I mean, thank you so much for that story. I know that's like very personal, and but it really does. Like you're out here doing your job every day, and no one knows what you and others like you do behind the scenes. We see a smiling face on TV, right? And so it's like to hear the real stuff that happens that people just don't always know about. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you. And the great part about it, you know, going back to, you know, your work, because at the end of the day, you have work. The station was great. You know, they were so supportive. At the time, this was before Katie retired. She was incredible. I mean, she was reaching out and just sending stuff and just whatever I can do for you. And I mean, you need somebody like that, right? Who's like gonna support you even away from the moment. And so the station, you know, they're like, you handle what you have to handle.
Take the time you need.
Yeah,
you got
we'll be here.
Yeah, that is a great work family to have. Thanks for sharing that. We're into rapid fire, okay? So
already?
your job is just to say what first comes to mind, okay? What is your go-to comfort food, drink, or ritual when the pressure's on?
Oh my goodness, candy, right?
Oh,
Who doesn't
me
love candy,
too.
right?
Wait, is it like sour or chocolate?
Sour Patch Kids.
Oh my
Sour
God,
Patch
I'm sour
Kids.
gummy worms, trolleys.
Okay, I mean anything gummy, all of it, like candy, candy, candy. And when my wife sees this, she's gonna get upset because I mean, I love candy, right?
Yeah.
I've scaled that back a little bit,
Yeah.
but when the pressure is on, like you're like, rah, what do we got? What do we got? And the great thing about it, any newsroom, is there's always candy somewhere, right? Somebody always has a stash somewhere. And so, yeah, candy, 100%. And if I'm at home and the stress, then it's ice cream.
Yep. Oh, gosh, you are just like me. I love it. Your secret journalistic superpower?
Connection. Just connecting with people, being able to, have a conversation and realize at the end of the day, people are people, right? Whether you're having a bad day or a good day, like when you can sit across from somebody and connect and have a conversation, like that's a superpower.
Yeah.
When, people are stressed and when they're nervous, especially, anytime you sit down with somebody
and you do it all the time with people who are nervous. Yeah.
And just talk. That's something common that everybody can relate to. And you'd be amazed at when you're able to make that connection, how much more comes out.
Oh, yeah, for sure. What's the wildest rumor you ever heard about yourself?
So many to choose from. A long time ago, I heard that that was a stage name. That wasn't my real name. Javier Soto wasn't my real name. And I'm like, what? They're like, we heard you made that name up and that's not your real name. And I'm like, well, just so you know, like my father's name was Javier Soto. So I'm a junior. So there's that.
Yeah.
That kind of confirms.
That, like you would have maybe picked like, I don't know, like if you could make anything up, like your name's awesome, but like,
Yeah,
why?
That's not the name you're choosing, right? Javier Soto. I mean, and you're looking, 20 something years ago, the name wasn't rolling off the tongue anywhere. So
yeah, it's a great name though. It really is. It does roll really good. Like maybe because you've been around so long, it's like it's natural. Like you see, it works.
Well, there are a lot of Javier Sotos in the world, as I'm finding out. Every time I go through customs.
Oh God, I can't even imagine. At least my name, everyone's like, I don't even know how to say it. We can't find. Just go. It's fine. What's the moment you thought, welp, never living that down?
I remember it as a young journalist, and we were interacting with a radio show, and I don't know how the conversation came up, and somebody said something about me being a great dancer.
Okay.
And so I'm like, all right, and they're like, Javier, that would be great if you decided to jump on the news desk and dance. So after some, back and forth and a little peer pressure, I, for whatever reason, thought it was smart to jump up on the news desk and start to dance. What I didn't realize and quickly found out was those aren't the sturdiest desks in the world, right? They're not meant for people to stand on them. So I jumped up and I realized like it felt like it was going to break. Oh, God. And I'm like thinking to myself, if this collapses, like my career is over. Like,
no you're on live TV.
I'm done. Yeah. So I tried to gently get back down. Well, the station loved it. So they started running that clip every 30 minutes.
Oh, God.
It was like the open. It was like, and what about this? And remember Javier Soto jumped up and da da da. And it went throughout the day. My general manager at the time, who had just started at the station, was not a fan.
Oh, my God. That's so funny.
So at some point, after they kept playing it and playing it and playing it, he came down. And again, he had just started, right? Didn't know me, didn't know many people, but knew that shouldn't be on air.
Yeah.
Came down and told everyone, if I see that clip on air one more time, people are getting fired.
Oh, God.
And so hopefully that clip is long gone. Will never come back.
I'm like, I hope I can find it to like put it in, like, in this moment.
I don't think that one's on. I mean, I've seen a lot of clips. People have sent me stuff, and I don't think that one's up there because
so funny.
He made a point to make sure that it was gone.
Yeah.
It was erased.
That's great. What's on your bucket list that might surprise people?
An interview with Snoop.
Oh, I love that.
Interview with Snoop. So I grew up in Long Beach. He grew up in Long Beach. We went to the same junior high. He's much older, so it's not like our paths
You didn't
crossed.
know each other.
We know similar people. My cousin actually went to school with him at Pauley. And so I've known about him for a long, long, long time. So to watch him and his uber celebrity status at this point, and he seems to continue to resurface and evolve
so
and
much.
just, and just reinvent himself. And now people love him, right? So true story, I'm rarely starstruck.
Yeah.
I did an event with him. This was not last Super Bowl here in Arizona,
Okay,
but
the
the
one
Super
before.
Bowl before, right? And it was with the Wounded Warriors Project. And so it was Wounded Warriors versus former athletes.
Okay.
And I don't know how I got invited to be part of that former athletes, right? So we show up and it's a football game. And I had no idea. And Snoop's playing with the Wounded Warriors.
Yeah.
So it was like myself, Jake Plummer, Danny White, Juan Roque. I mean, these are huge names.
Yeah.
Some other players who made it in the NFL, and then there's me. So they line everybody up, and they're introducing everyone, and it's Danny White, former Dallas Cowboy, and it's Jake Plummer, ASU, Denver Bronco, and they pass the mic to me, and I'm like, Javier Soto, I sat the bench in high school. And the place goes crazy, right? So anyhow, Snoop was fairly close to me. I started to walk up to him, and I got scared. I got nervous.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even introduce myself.
Huh.
And I was just prior, I have always envisioned meeting him and talking to him and being so we had this principal who was at the junior high forever, Dr. Bowles. I was thinking, what you know about Dr. Bowles? But I was so starstruck, I couldn't meet him.
Wow. Well, we're going to make it happen.
All right.
We're going to find a way.
That's it.
Put it out there to the people. This was such a pleasure. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing. I know the community is going to appreciate it. And thank you for your time today.
This was fun. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And again, getting back to the whole journalism thing, join us on ABC 15,
Yes.
abc15.com.
Perfect. Thanks, Javier.